About the recent discussions by the ICJ that former Minister Mrs. Nirupama Rajapaksha, her husband Mr. Thirukumar Nadesan's assets in offshore tax havens. This is a very pathetic situation because when it comes to the traditional Sri Lankan Tamil community, traditionally they are not going into these financial frauds as such. Only recently this has happened in 1980s. But I think here this Mr. Thirukumar Nadesan's assets in tax havens around the world, that has a different approach. As a professional, he would have done it. But the thing is, like when it comes to this financial transactions, we can see in northern province especially, after my advice, the commercial bank and many other banks open many ATM machines around the northern province and also in the eastern province. But still, the problem is this financial instability for the Sri Lankan Tamil community, wherever they are around the country or northern province especially. Because even in the eastern province, the major concern is that the Tamil community lacks the services of their own Sri Lankan indigenous commercial bank owned by the Tamil community's business entrepreneurs. Now, for example, the Sri Lankan Muslims own the Amana Bank, which is an indigenous Sri Lankan Muslim businessman-owned banking system. So I think I have highlighted this many times. Even the LTT leader Velupille Prabhakaran started the Bank of Tamil Eelam in Kilinochi. So I think this banking is a major concern in the northern province because it goes with the traditions. You cannot expect the Sri Lankan Tamil community to visit the Sinhala banks like Sampath Bank or Ceylon Bank or Het National Bank, etc., even though they may be staffed by the Tamil community itself in the northern province or any other area, as we see in Vellavatta and the Dehival areas also. The problem is when it comes to the traditions and the rituals, more than the Sinhalese Buddhist, it is the Tamil Hindu community that focus more on the that rituals and traditions. So that is why the financial stability goes along with the Hindu traditions and the rituals for prosperity. So we cannot expect a Sinhalese person to do it on a Deepavali day or a Thaipongal day when the Tamil people visit the the other Sri Lankan bank. It has to go along with their traditions. So this is why it's important to launch a specialized like Tamil businessmen from northern province promoted commercial bank in the northern province and across the country with the branches and their own traditional approach based on that. So I think it's better that the government focus on that because financial security is very important to fulfill the basic needs like food, water, shelter, clothes, sleep, everything. It depends on the financial security. Now that the safety security free from injuries or death that has been established after the war ended in northern province and eastern provinces, but now financial security is a major part that the government has to look into that by establishing a specialized Sri Lankan Tamil entrepreneurs from northern province own a commercial bank with headquarters in Jaffna, because then only the health safety and other needs like the social needs, esteem needs, self-fulfilling needs would be fulfilled. I think the government must look into this matter without further delaying it because already there are like Christian Sinhalese banks, Sinhala Buddhist banks, and also there are Sri Lankan Muslim or Islam followers banks, and there are banks supporting the Anglican community, and there are specific banks supporting the Sri Lankan British, Sri Lankan Dutch, and the Sri Lankan Portuguese communities, and the Sri Lankan Malaysian communities. So the Sri Lankan Tamil community lacks the services of a specialized or rather like a unique commercial bank, and also similarly like savings banks, specialized savings banks, specialized merchant banks, specialized investment banks focusing on infrastructure lending, and specialized on the other hand, like other various types of specialized development banks are needed. Especially during this time, we can see the former development banks of Sri Lanka, that is a National Development Bank, established in 1979 through Act of Parliament, and before that, the DFCC, the Development Finance Corporation of Ceylon, was there. So both of these institutions have been promoted as development banks. So development banking is very unique today because development banking is the sector that obtains foreign assistance and then refinance the local entrepreneurs to develop at a lower interest rates. But those development banks have been closed, or they have been changed into commercial banks. So now we can see during the COVID-19 period, once more there's a need for development banking. So there has to be a development bank. So I think there has to be like a Sri Lankan Tamil community promoted banking group in Northern Province, covering the commercial banks, incorporation, a development bank, and a savings bank, and a like investment bank, and a infrastructure bank. So these type of banking infrastructure would put integrity into their community people's transactions, rather than what we have seen in the ICJ discussion on this Mr. Thirukumar Nadesan, who had to take his assets overseas. So this is because of this lack of a Sri Lankan indigenous Tamil entrepreneurs' own banking system in the northern province of Sri Lanka and throughout the country. So because of this situation, even the Tamil children leaving the schools or the universities don't have access to the banking industry, because banking industry in Sri Lanka, the staff is actually the majority is from Sinhala community, the Sinhala elite community, and so because of this, I think the Sri Lankan Tamil community has to depend overseas, hiding their, keeping their assets overseas or working abroad, and it has gone into a very complex situation. So I think it's the duty of the Finance Minister, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksha, to launch a specialized Sri Lankan Tamil entrepreneurs funded bank, and not a state bank as such, but like indigenous Tamil businessmen have to promote like a banking group in order to support their community, because community support in the northern province can only be done through a proper banking group which covers all banking activities, even import export bank, savings bank, as I said earlier, all types of banks. I think the government must look into this as an urgent requirement.